One group doesn't mind the war, though. In Ukraine, in Gaza, it really doesn't matter for them. And that group is big oil. You see, war equals instability. Instability equals higher prices. And higher oil price equals bumper profits. How much money are we talking about? $281 billion. That's how much the 5 largest listed oil companies have made since February 2022. $281 billion. Since February 2022, meaning since the Ukraine war. So 24 months, $281 billion in profits. Which are these oil companies? BP, Shell, Chevron, ExxonMobil, and Total Energies. All of them are European or American. BP and Shell made $94 billion in profits. The other 3 made $187 billion. But why is this news? After all, companies are designed to make money. It also means more returns for investors. So what's the problem here? Well, there are 2 problems. Number one, these profits coincided with a tough time for households. Our inflation was going through the roof. In some countries, it was in double digits. Yet big oil was making big money, and their profits fueled our inflation. That's problem number one. Problem number 2 is the setback to climate goals. The oil industry, you see, makes up 15% of total emissions. It's one of the biggest causes of climate change. But the same oil industry is making big bucks. It is giving massive returns to investors. In 2022, big oil rewarded shareholders with $104 billion. In 2023, with around $100 billion. Now, do you see the problem here? Why will oil companies turn green if oil is making so much money, when it's making investors so happy? They have no reason to change. So most big oil companies are going back to default. Take Shell, for example. Last year, they cut 330 jobs in the low-carbon businesses. A new CEO took charge in 2023. He says expanding oil and gas production is the priority. What about green energy? For now, it will have to take a back seat. Same with BP. They had promised to reduce emissions by the end of this decade by around 35 to 40%. That was the promise, but now BP says that's not possible. So their new target is 20 to 30%. So big oil is going back on its promise. And why is that? What has changed in the last 2 years? For starters, oil prices have shot up in the last few years. Just look at the numbers. The pandemic years were tough for big oil. Most factories were shut. Cars were locked away in the garage, so oil demand was very low. The prices fell to $32 in 2020. I'm talking about $32 per barrel. That's what it was in 2020. By December 2021, things looked up. Oil prices had recovered to $67 per barrel. Then came Russia's war on Ukraine. By mid-2022, the prices had topped $112 per barrel. Big oil firms were minting money again. Another jolt came in late 2023. Hamas launched an attack on Israel, so West Asia was plunged into war. Oil prices rose once again. Today, it's around $82 per barrel. So it makes sense to invest in fossil fuels again. There's a lot of money to be made. Secondly, big oil has found a solution to keep investors quiet. Shower them with money. Shell gave rewards worth $23 billion in 2023. Their profits had fallen compared to 2022, yet Shell decided to splurge on investors. In fact, $23 billion is 6 times what they invested in green energy. BP did something similar. They had promised to raise dividends by 4% every year, but the actual raise last year in 2023 was 10%. So investors are more than happy to give their blessings. Activists have tried to put pressure on them. Some have disrupted investors' meetings, but nothing seems to work. So what's the solution? We say government policy. There's been talk of imposing windfall taxes on big oil, or maybe a green cess. But we need more than talks. We need actions. Like I said at the start, companies are designed to make money. Investors are hardwired to want money. There is no point trying to change that. Instead, governments must incentivize big oil to invest in green energy. How? Through carrots like subsidies and sticks like taxes. If not, big oil won't change its ways.